Welcome back to Pop Dissected.
Today, we're going to be talking about Ava Max and why so many people see her as a rising underdog in the realm of pop music, despite her mainstream success being rather shaky since its beginning. Ava is finding plenty of success, however, across many territories, but with those achievements, many feel she has yet to find solid footing or recognition amongst other up-and-coming pop artists. She's put out a number of successful singles, such as Sweet But Psycho and Kings and Queens, with her debut album, Heaven and Hell, releasing in September of last year. At the end of the day, we want to explore why Ava Max is falling into the category of underrated pop girls, similar to Charli XCX. Is it that she just doesn't have the star quality? Is there something going on with her label? Well, let's dive in and try to figure it out. But before we start, it would be greatly appreciated if you gave this video a like and considered subscribing so you can get more future content on all your favorite pop stars. Ava Max's first effort was entitled Amanda K, released in 2008 on her MySpace page. She adopted the stage name Ava before she added on the last name Max in around 2017. Though being featured on a handful of songs, Ava Max's debut single, Sweet But Psycho, became an international hit, reaching number 1 on 27 charts across the world. Despite its chart success, the track had a lot of things going against it. The single clearly was effective on the charts as a 1980s influenced dance pop track, but critics were quick to point out many things about the sound of Sweet But Psycho. A few critics noted that the single was generic at best, following a perfect pop formula, but in the same breath, others noted the formulaic nature made this a forgettable song at the end of the day, despite its chart success. Most notably, critics discussed how Sweet But Psycho would fit well on Lady Gaga's debut album, The Fame. In addition, critics saw Ava's sound as an amalgamation of Gaga, Katy Perry, and Marina. Another notable criticism was the use of the word psycho throughout the track, in which some felt Ava was bringing a negative connotation and forcing harmful stereotypes onto mental health. Despite this, Ava elaborated on the use of the word, how it's more so to reflect how she is being gaslit in previous relationships, in which her partner would deny things to make her feel as if she was going, quote-unquote, psycho. All this aside, Sweet But Psycho released August 17th of 2018. Knowing the release date of her debut album, this puts the lead single 2 years ahead of that. As we've discussed, for a lead single to be effective, it must embody the album it's from, whether that be in tone, theme, sound, or lyrical style. It would also be beneficial if it were released 2 to 4 months before the album, to keep the hype and engagement consistent. Ava would go on to release 6 more singles until her debut album released, each one varying differently in their chart position across the globe. And each of these singles seemingly attempted to try a different lane or avenue to test the waters. So I Am followed as the second single, 7 months later in March of 2019. The electro-pop track showed less general success than its predecessor, but still performed well. 5 months later by August, we'd received the third single, the disco-inspired Torn, which showed an even further decline on the charts. Continuing with the disco influence, Salt released in December and saw average successes. Kings and Queen released in March of 2020, which would reinvigorate Ava's career, seeing chart successes comparable to So I Am. Being compared by Rolling Stone to the works of the band Queen, the single was able to recharge a dwindling album cycle that received its last breaths with the tracks Who's Laughing Now, OMG What's Happening, and My Heart and My Head. The last 3 singles had varying successes, with the final track being the most notable. In looking at the rollout for this album, we can investigate several factors that may have led to Ava being underappreciated. We have to state, when it comes to Heaven and Hell, critics have been favorable towards the album's upbeat tempo throughout, Ava's vocal abilities, and the well-crafted, albeit run-of-the-mill, production. I think it's not a surprise to anyone. There are clear influences Ava Max has derived her music from. A reason some could be less open to Ava Max as an artist is because of this exact point. However, she's only on her first effort, and I'm sure in time she will expand and grow and find a sound that's more suited for her and is likely more original. Though some of her songs may be catchy, the lack of innovation and glaring similarities between other artists could be a reason Ava Max isn't taken seriously as a pop girl. Some may feel she's copying, or has no personality, or is flat out unoriginal. There is nothing wrong with having influences, and it makes sense in the start of one's creative career, you're going to more closely resemble your influences as you try to establish your own identity. The overbearing comparisons to Lady Gaga are reminiscent of the ones that plagued Christina Aguilera during her Bionic era. So I'm hoping these comparisons with Ava don't become blown out of proportion. I've seen floating around online how some audiences don't believe Ava Max has an identity that helps her stand out. As opposed to other well-known pop girls, Ava doesn't seem to have anything signature about her, besides her very recognizable hairstyle. So with lacking an established personality, and her music not having yet found a more authentic place, Ava Max could potentially be seen as another star just waiting to fade. But even with those critiques highlighted, Ava Max has noted how her personal inspiration is fashion from the 1990s, and she enjoys going against the grain with her artistic vision, which I believe is very admirable. I think saying Ava Max is a Gaga wannabe is a bit harsh. Ava has a blonde cut, makes 80s inspired dance tracks, and gives us very unique music videos, as have many other female artists in pop. I find it strange the comparisons are never favorable, always seemingly saying that Ava is somehow a watered down discount version of Gaga, which isn't cool to say at all. Perhaps another reason Ava Max continues to be underrated is her mission statement of sorts, in which she states she is going to bring back pop. Amidst all the previous things I listed and the critique she's received, it would be possible some audiences see this as an outright pretentious claim that was intended to boost her image. Regardless, when a claim like that is made by any artist, it has to be followed up, and critics have not necessarily seen that from Ava. One thing I have to pose is why did her label hold out so long during the Heaven and Hell's single Rollout? The style of her rollout was kind of similar to Billie Eilish's for her debut album When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go?, in which a multitude of singles were steadily released over a few years before the album. This approach allows artists to gauge which of their songs will have the most impact, but allow the label also to see what type of song audiences are most receptive to. Billie, however, is a very different story than Ava, as her image and music stylings contrasted greatly to the majority of what was witnessed in the music industry at the time, and even now potentially. Billie's single releases also coincided much closer to her actual album's release, whereas Ava's did not. In fact, the gap between Sweet But Psycho and So Am I could be seen as one of the first mistakes in this rollout. Her label didn't capitalize enough on the success of Sweet But Psycho, which really allowed her initial hype to die down. It seems as if Atlantic was playing an odd waiting game with Ava. You would think if an artist doesn't show immediate success, then they'd be dropped from the label and would have to move on. However, perhaps Sweet But Psycho was the success they wanted, but they couldn't figure out how to leverage it further. It's good to know Atlantic didn't shelf her record, but it seems as if they waited to throw out different songs over a period of time to better shape the record and gauge what would be most successful. I also think that releasing 7 of the standard 15 tracks as singles already sucked the life out of the record. If we've heard nearly half of it, the anticipation severely dies down. The element of what is yet to come ends up being entirely removed, so what is there left to even be excited about? However, I think Atlantic was really just banking on consistent, stable success. Is it fair? Not really, but I do think Atlantic saw potential in Ava, even if they had a hand in her debut album taking so long to come out. Heaven and Hell placed within the top 10 of 16 worldwide charts, including the UK Albums Chart at number 2. The album hit its peak at 27 on the Billboard 200. But before we continue, I'd love for you to join my community of channel members, where you can receive special perks, exclusive badges, emojis, early access to videos, and my Pop Dissected podcasts. I hope to see you join. With this, what makes Ava Max an underdog of pop music? With a handful of gold and platinum certifications, as well as a good amount of award nominations, what is stopping people from taking her seriously and giving her more hype? I think one of the biggest factors is her commercial impact. Many well-established pop artists either break out with a huge smash hit or have been able to put out consistently well-performing efforts. Ava Max is definitely killing it across the world. However, the lack of consistent placement on the charts, as well as sales, makes each one of her singles a blip on the radar. she isn't continuously present. That, in conjunction with some critics stating she doesn't have a solidified image, and more so comes across as an emulator, also ties into this previous point. However, with all this said, it's very obvious Ava Max is working really hard in her career. Some artists are able to launch into stardom very easily. Some struggle in the public eye before they can finally take off. Just because an artist hasn't earned immediate success doesn't make them less of an artist. We never know what additional odds they may be facing. Let me know if there are any other things about Ava Max you believe make people doubt her as an artist. And also, be sure to let me know in the comments. Is Ava Max truly underrated for all the effort she's put in? Or is she just not that special after all? Let me know in the comments and we can talk about it. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I'd like to shout out my Hotshot debut and Pop Icon status channel members: Carl Dillinson, Daniel Barron, Jalen Heater, Tyler Salvetti, Crystalline Gregory, Skyhawker, Steven, and Conrad Kowalczyk. As we close out this video, it would be greatly appreciated if you gave this video a thumbs up and considered subscribing so you can get more future content on all your favorite pop stars.